Right, so in this video, I just want to quickly address what I learned in my last mock call with my friend Lawrence, how to isolate an objection properly. And this is like being a total game changer for me because sometimes I'm just gonna jump right into it. So some prospects really go ahead and they send you three objections all at once or multiple objections. They go, oh, I have to think about it, like I need a couple of days just to make sure that this is the right thing because there's like also the uncertainty with the program or with the product, and it's also a lot of money, so I have to run with these three things in my head to see if it's the real thing, if I want to jump into. And what you do, or what I used to do, is go ahead and handle. I just choose one and decide to handle that because I knew I had to isolate it. So I go and I say, okay, yes, I know that it's a lot of uncertainty, but what it is certain is that you're gonna stay in that same position that you've been going through for the past 2 years, 3 years, whatever. So do you feel like uncertainty is really an issue? And they go like, well, yeah, but there's a lot of money with that uncertainty, and I don't know, and they just go around, and then they just say like, I just want 2 days to think about it. Like, what's wrong with having a couple of days to think about it? And that's just because once I heard the objection, I went immediately into objection handling, and by that I mean it's handling with the logic, the line of logic that I need to use. In reality, what you should do is first of all mention one objection and say that you can look at the other objections in a second. You go, yes, I do understand that it's an important amount of money, it's a good investment, but I want to know, apart from that, and apart from you wanting a couple of days to think about it, because that's totally fine, let's look at the uncertainty for a second. What do you mean by uncertainty? Or you ask a question back to the prospect about that one objection that you mentioned. So step number one is just mention that objection and discard the other objections, or like tell them that you can talk about it later. So you essentially communicate that you want to focus and talk about one specific objection. And the way how you reinforce that is by giving them a question about, it doesn't matter what question that is, or of course the question has to be important, relevant, helping you to handle that. But essentially that just brings them back to the same page of the uncertainty page, if that's the objection that you want to handle. Which pro tip you want to handle that before finances and other concerns. And once they answer that question, then you have full permission to handle that logic. So you go ahead, what do you mean by uncertainty? And they just go ahead and give you something else, like you clarify on that specific thing. And you do that by, first of all, disregarding the other objections and by throwing the ball back at them for them to talk about this objection and nothing else. And if they bring up something else, you go like, okay, but apart from that, let's focus on uncertainty. What about this? Or you can even ask, okay, and if we solve this, then what else would be coming up to you so that you want to take a step back or not move forward today, right? And that way you can transition into the other objections. But if they say like, yeah, no, there's this and that, you pull them back to the uncertainty by clarifying, okay, yeah, and we can take a look at that back in a second. But now, regarding the uncertainty, yeah, throw them back a question at them so they're on the same page, and then you handle that fully. You say, okay, but I just want to let you know that the only certain thing is that you're not gonna change if you don't make a decision to change right now. Or you say like, well, the real certainty that you're looking for here is your commitment, or whatever it is that your line of logic to handle that objection is, and you want them to agree with that. Would you agree? Would you agree that that's the thing? If they say yes, they say, yeah, that makes sense. Then the door is shut. You shut the door on that objection, and you can move. Okay, good. So is there anything else preventing you to move forward? And then they give you the other objection. You do the same thing. You grab that objection, you clarify on it, because it's different to hear, oh, it's just a lot of money, than, okay, do you have the money and it's just scary, or you just don't have the money, we have to figure out something with payment plans. And once they answer that, not only you're going to have more information, but they are now on board with the objection that you both want to talk about, right? So how the framework looks like is, first of all, choose an objection, mention that that's the one thing that you want to talk about, and you can talk about the other objections in a second. And yeah, that's the first step. Then you ask the prospect a question about this objection, and they ideally just answer a question. They answer your question about the objection, about that objection specifically. And then with that new information, if you feel like that's enough for you to handle that objection, you go ahead and handle that, like that line of logic. And then you go ahead, and if not, then you just ask more questions. And once that's handled, you ask if that makes sense, if that is like done. They say yes, then you go ahead and you ask what other objections are there, which if you had plenty in the beginning, you go ahead and tackle those. If they're still there, maybe they were just smoke screens. And if they really are smoke screens, they might not bring it up again. If they are bringing it up again, and they might still be smoke screens, so you want to clarify and go through this process again. So yeah, I guess it's just those two, and then rinse and repeat. Yeah, so mention the objection, ask them something specifically about the objection, and then ask what other objections are there, and you rinse and repeat. And only once you've gone through all the objections, once you ask, okay, is there anything else coming up, and they really have like nothing else to say, like no, it's just scary, right? They're just being honest. It is scary. It's never gonna be scary. Then you just go into emotional, or you push them with emotion. Like, yes, I know it's scary, but it's what you have to do. It's what comfort, how you get out of your comfort zone, and you become that person who does the right steps into, I don't know, growing your business or whatever, include the benefit. But essentially, that's how you isolate the objection. I hope this was helpful, and I'm just gonna do a better video about this in the future, so stay tuned for this.